Hey y'all, welcome back to Twin Oaks Family Farm making meat. We're here in the meat bird production barn. So these birds are being raised specifically for poultry production. They're a specialized kind of hybrid that is intended for poultry production because the traits that have been prioritized in the selective breeding include rapid growth, efficient feed to meat conversion, and distribution of that meat into the chicken breast, chicken thighs, and drumsticks, and a quick finish, and the white feathering and light pink skin lends itself to ear cleaning. So all of these traits have been prioritized in the development of this specialized meat chicken, the Cornish cross meat chicken. And not going to go into a lot of that history, but a lot of the development of this specialized hybrid dates back to the United States of America in the 1940s. So that's pretty fascinating. And now, today, 2025, as far as retail poultry across the world, this specialized hybrid is the go-to standard and the industry benchmark for poultry production. So in this pen, we are at population 405 Cornish rock cross meat chickens. We had this flock hatched April 30th, 2025, and they have a processing date scheduled for June 11th, 2025. So right at 6 weeks old when they go to the processor, and that is typical. That's the age you want to finish this kind of chicken at for poultry. So our processing appointment is for 400 birds. Current flock population is 405, but that number is going to go down. So if you're following the flock, we've been titling these with the quantity of birds in the flock and what day we're on and some feature of that day's video. From here to the end, probably going to see that number drop a little bit, possibly a little bit each day, and one day we're going to see kind of a significant drop, because before the end of production we will have to deal with cull birds. And so in every meat bird flock, especially at any kind of scale, and I say every meat bird flock, but I know there's people out there that have raised Cornish rock cross meat chickens and had a flock where they had 0 flock loss, and we think that's fantastic. But realistically, when you get to the scale of 100 plus birds, and we were dealing with 400 plus birds, we're going to have individuals in the flock that will tend towards failure to thrive. And you could have birds that have injury. And then a secondary issue to failure to thrive and potentially to injury is their mobility is compromised. And another secondary problem with any failure to thrive issue is chronic heart distress. And then sometimes meat birds have sudden death syndrome, which is basically just an acute instance of heart failure in which the bird dies from heart failure. So you can have all kinds of issues that are going to lead to either sudden death in the flock or cull birds in the flock that are not going to successfully finish production and are not going to go to butchering, not going to go to processing. So already in this group, we've actually got separated out into a separate space. We've got 8 birds already separated out of this flock into what we're calling an intervention space. Those birds are much smaller than these birds. Chronic heart distress was sort of a secondary problem to an initial failure to thrive. And sometimes failure to thrive can be brought on by conditions during hatch that are totally out of the producer's control once we get to the point of starting those birds and trying to move through the growing and the finishing. So even things like humidity, temperature during the hatching process can impact the strength of the bird after hatch and when it's growing. So there's a lot of puzzle pieces that go into successfully producing poultry. But what we're looking at here is a great representation of about 400 birds that are a week away from finishing for poultry. So this is day 36. flock population is 405, but that number is going to go down. And so realistically, what are we going to end up on June 11th? In about a week, taken to the processor? Well, maybe around 380. I don't know. Hopefully it'd be a better number than that. Definitely looking at, I'd say like 395 is best reasonable estimate right now, but it could be less than that. And today is going to be tough. So temperature is critical when raising meat birds. So when I say temperature is critical, I'm referring to ambient temperature in the environment around them. And meat birds at this age, they really want a max temperature of about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you raise these birds, you start out with your hatchlings. They want to be about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you're just on a continuum each week that they want it 5 degrees cooler until you get to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit at 5 weeks, and then working toward their preference being about 65 degrees at finish. So we do the best we can with what we have. We don't have a thermostat controlled barn. We don't have a temperature controlled growing and finishing space for them. When we brought them in here, you can see the heat lamp suspended from the ceiling. There's about 12 heat lamps there. When we brought them in here April 30th, and they were the size of a chicken egg. They were the size of a chicken egg just 35 days ago. But they wanted it 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, April in Southeast Ohio, we didn't have 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So we used targeted warmth, and they all kind of fit over there under that space where the heat lamps are suspended. And then as they've grown, we've managed for temperature the best we can. So at this point, right now, as we're recording, and I know I told you this is their day 36, but calendar-wise, it is June 4th, 2025. So right now, as we're recording, it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit outdoors. This is perfect. This is perfect. And this is exactly what they want. And as we look around the pen, we do see a lot of birds resting, but that's because they're meat birds. So where is their energy supposed to go? Their energy is supposed to go into converting feed to meat and producing meat. So they don't need to be up and moving around and exerting a lot of energy on movement. They're doing exactly what we want them to be doing at this point. They're staying fed, they're staying hydrated by going to waters, and they're resting in between those periods of activity. And they're resting in between those periods of activity when they go to food and go to water. So that's what we want. But as we look around, the birds are spread out throughout the pen. We don't see any panting. We don't see any heat coping behaviors at this point. And they look content, and they're willing at free will to get up and go to water or go to food when they want to. This is exactly what we want to see. If we could keep the temperature exactly here for the next week, that's what we would do, because they are really happy with 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's exactly what we would expect from 5-week-old Cornish rock cross meat chickens. So the issue for us today is that our outdoor temperature is forecast to rise to about 88 degrees Fahrenheit. We're looking at very likely 20 degrees warmer today than they want it to be. And this is going to be a tough day on the birds, and it's going to create heat stress. And if they internalize heat stress into a sudden death incident, then we're going to have some flock loss numbers potentially today. So the silver lining is, when I look at the forecast for the next week, this is the hottest day that we're being shown at this point. The rest of the week is showing closer to 70. And the other silver lining is our nighttime temperatures are dipping down into the 60s. So that's very good. So even though we're going to have some heat stress during the daytimes, potentially, the birds are getting that reprieve at night. We also already have several fans running in the building, And we are definitely going to utilize our big doors. So having us a little bit on kind of pins and needles. This set of big doors we've left open the last 2 nights. We need to have the airflow. So there's a panel with rigid, strong hardware mesh about shoulder high over there. But from shoulder high to ceiling to the top of the doorway, it's open. So I say that puts us a little on pins and needles because we are always concerned about any kind of predator risk. But at this juncture, and you have to do the risks versus rewards, risk versus benefit kind of evaluations. At this juncture, we need to keep as many birds thriving as we possibly can between now and June 11th. So we need the airflow throughout the night to let the barn cool back down to work against the next day potentially heating up. So that's kind of what we've got going on there. We will close that door and that door. This door that we were looking at first, this is the north face of our building. There's a little bit more protection there from anything coming in because there's a breezeway between a couple of sheds out that face of the building. So we're gonna do what we can, and we're gonna pray on the rest of it, and we're gonna be at peace with what comes our way. But we've checked in with our processor. They've confirmed our June 11th processing appointment, and they've asked for quantity, and we told them where we're at, and we told them that we will check in with them the day before our processing appointment to confirm the number that we have. So glad to see birds get up and go to water. That's the big ticket. When we're gonna have warm days, what we gotta do is keep water in them. That's great. Like 3 of them just went up and got to that water. So, and there's one going to that water. Because we do have this great like open air feeling in here, and we can keep the direct sun off of them. Food wise, so we didn't need to add any food today. I'm gonna guess we probably have about 400 pounds of their 22% protein feed left. I've told y'all if we feed all of that, we won't go get more 22% protein. If we feed all of that, we'll go get plain cracked corn and finish them on some cracked corn, which they don't like as well as their regular feed. But that's all the 22% protein we're gonna get for them because we knew it's gonna get them almost out to finish. So we figure the feed that's in the pen will probably take them another day maybe to consume, and after that we will probably put in the rest of the feed that we have left. And so if they eat all that and we have a gap between when they finish it and feed withdrawal, then we'll go get the cracked corn. But then feed withdrawal will begin about 15 hours before their processing appointment. So their processing appointment, we'll say about 8 a.m. on June 11th. We got to have the birds there before 7, but could be, 8 or sometime that morning before they actually go into the processing line. So we'll go with 8 a.m. on June 11th. So we're going to say about 5 p.m. on the 10th is when we're going to take feed away. So probably the last time we'll add any feed will probably be the evening of the 9th. And then we'll just let them be cleaning that up on the 10th. And then that'll set us up to trigger feed withdrawal at about 5 p.m. on the 10th. And then they'll be ready to load for transport the morning of the 11th. And that's quite a show. Actually, we have it down to a system. There's 5 in our household. We get out here about 3 a.m. the morning of processing to load the birds into the live poultry transport crate. So the last couple times we haven't recorded that. We will try to record that this time. It's hard on everybody. Nobody wants to be up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Nobody wants to be in the meat bird barn at 3 a.m. in the morning. Nobody wants to handle chickens at 3 a.m. in the morning. And then if you're already doing 3 things you don't want to do at 3 a.m. in the morning, nobody wants a camera in their face. But we are going to try to record that this time. But these birds are looking really good. and still have a week to go. So they're going to fill out quite a lot in the next week. We're going to have a really wonderful outcome in terms of meat production. We got to get through today, and then we got to get through the week to next Wednesday, so a week from today. So this is June 4th, 2025. 405 birds, including ones that will be cull birds or imminent flock loss. Going to see numbers go down a little bit over the next week yet. So thanks, y'all. We appreciate you. Ask us any questions you want to. We'll answer what we're able to, and we love to share what we've learned grazing Cornish rock cross meat chickens. We also love to encourage people to raise and produce their own food if that's possible for your resources and for your season of life. If it isn't, we want to encourage you to seek out farmers, ranchers, and producers in your area, and please heart local ag wherever local is for you. Agriculture needs consumers, and consumers do need agriculture. Small family farms especially appreciate your support. God bless y'all.